So why not let's talk about how I was able to take 2 certifications in 3 months. So let me be honest, it wasn't easy. And I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to be easy, but it's worth it. I use this same strategy to be the 2-time best graduating student in my music school. A little background to it. I didn't take my certification in 3 months because of the fun of it. It was due to sheer determination to actually pursue what was important for me. And what was important for me then was to become a cloud engineer, right? And I knew then from doing research and all of those stuff that once you become a cloud engineer, a very good place or a very good strategy that will pivot you is to actually have your certification. And that was why I said, okay, so I was going to learn about cloud engineering and then write AWS certification within 3 months. And so what did I do? And that's what I will be sharing with you. First thing is actually running what I call concentrated learning. And it's actually what I coined for myself, but the concept is actually for you to surround yourself as much as possible with that skill you want to learn. See, and this cuts across not just technology or cloud. It's one strategy I've used a whole lot of time to learn everything I want to learn. Back then in school, in the polytechnic, I used this same strategy to learn, right, such that I came out top in my class, and not just top in my class, the first person to graduate with a distinction in my department then of leisure and tourism management. So it works for me, and that is why I think it's going to work for you. Concentrated learning. And what I do is in that situation, especially when I know I have a goal, a target to meet, and that is very important. First, you need to set that target. See, in all, right, I would say it's very, very important to set your target. If you don't start with setting your targets, and when I say set your target, I'm not saying high. It could be as simple as putting it on just a sheet of paper. In 3 months, I want to earn my certification. In 3 months, I want to learn this skill. In 4 months, I want to learn this skill. It starts with setting out that goal. Once you set that goal, let me start with this. Your mind starts working to actually achieve it, right? It is one principle that was emphasized in the book of Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, of how your mind works when you actually write out a goal. So you want to write it down first and put it down. This is what I want to achieve. Now, having said that, and having believing that you have your goal set, let me continue with concentrated learning. Now, what you want to do once you have it, like what I did, I knew in 3 months' time, I want to write my certification. I started surrounding myself with every of services that I need to know. I surrounded myself with all of the knowledge, looking for a better word now. You know, it's just a concept of you having all of your activities speak to you about that skill you want to learn. Okay, take for instance, let me take it out of technology. If I want to learn to play a guitar, right, I would adopt my concentrated learning and surround myself with everything that speaks about guitar, including how to learn a guitar, guitar tones, music that has guitar that is dominated with guitar. All of those, my ringtone becomes a guitar-dominated ringtone. As I'm working, my mindset is looking out for anything that has to do with guitar. I surround myself with it. And that's what I call concentrated learning. Surrounding yourself with any skill you want to do. Let your wallpaper be that skill. Let the books you will be reading at that time be that skill. Let the videos you'll be watching be that skill. Let the gist that you'll be gisting be that skill, right? With that, you are putting things into both your subconscious and your conscious mind, right? So take, for instance, my wallpaper was AWS certification. In fact, I had someone shared a sample, not a sample, it was a real job offer letter that was for someone that was employed as an AWS solutions architect, right? So the person shared the letter, and then I took the screenshot of that letter and made it my wallpaper, made it my screensaver, anything, anywhere I could use it. It's like you're learning a new language too, right? The best way to learn that language is actually to surround yourself with people that speak that language. And that's the first thing, concentrated learning. One more thing I would do, usually, is to start changing my network. Start, not changing per se, but start repositioning myself to be in the cycle of those that are actually speaking the language of what I want to learn. Take, for instance, preparing for the cloud certification and learning how to, learning about cloud technologies to become a cloud engineer. I started positioning my LinkedIn network to contain list of cloud engineers, right? So that even my newsfeed is actually speaking cloud engineering terms, right? So you see people posting about Terraform, you see people posting about one cloud service, you see people posting about this cloud service, you see people talking about the concept of monitoring. That was all I wanted to see. And that is how I learn. Because the more I see, the more it registers into me, right? So I strategize my network within those 3 months, right? Right from the go. That was what I did. Then I did something again very interesting that I actually I will always do. I've always done, even right from the tertiary institution days, is to create my timetable. Especially for if you're that kind of person that you are working and your work actually takes a whole lot of your time. Trust me, it's not very easy for me. So I knew I could be overwhelmed. I'm the kind of person that I could get overwhelmed just thinking about tasks I wanted to do or topics I want to read. But to help me, I just put them down. And in this case, I create a timetable for it. So what that timetable does, what I do with that timetable is to allot a certain time for each services I was going to be reading for that day. So I had an average of 1 hour break during work, right? For that 1 hour, I have one service I would be reading or studying about for that hour during the day. Now, not just that, only one service for the day. I have about 2 more services for the rest of the day. So once I am done with my break or whatever during the day, once I close for work, I don't go home immediately. I have to stay back and then do the remaining topics, right? It's a function of having to budget your time, and that is what timetable does. It helps you to know what you're doing at every point in time, right? Be organized. It helps you to be organized. So I did that. By the time I'm getting home between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. and 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. on my timetable, I was studying, right? So between 12 and 2 a.m., I was going to be studying theory, making research, Googling, and all of those stuff that you can think about for 2 hours. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., I was going into the console. And what was I doing in the console? I was practicing all of those things I researched 2 hours earlier. All of those key points, all of those processes, all of those projects I read about. I was actually practicing them for 2 hours on the console between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., I was getting ready to go out for work. So within that time, I could get an hour of sleep, or 1 hour, 30 minutes of sleep, if there's time anyway. Trust me, I'm not, it wasn't easy then. It was difficult. It was difficult, but I had a goal. So between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., I was getting ready for work. By 4:40 or 5 a.m., by 5:30, I had to get out of the house, right? And that's because I will get to my work late. So by 5 a.m., I need to be out of the house, right? So you need to understand why I needed to give myself that goal of 3 months, right? To get out of that loop. So by 5 a.m., I'm out of the house going to the work. I have to get to work by 6 a.m. And interestingly, I had the keys to the office with me then. Right? It was our experience center. So if I get there late, definitely everybody else won't be able to have access into the facility, right? And again, it's not just me getting there by 6 a.m. that is even the issue. The fact that I had to get there before 6 a.m. because I need to set up all of the infrastructure, all of the services, all the machines there, make sure internet is working well, make sure all of the devices are working okay. So that's just the story behind it. So the point is, I had to put all of those in the timetable. So I knew between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. it was a peak season. So I was going to be very busy. Between 10 a.m. and 12, I was going to start addressing things in the office, right? Maybe one issue from customers that were not resolved during the peak season and all of those stuff. I was going to be doing that. It was in the timetable. Between 12 and 1, that was when I had my, what's it called? Break, right? Sometimes it spill over, it gets into 1 to 2 a.m., which is fine because I knew between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., I was supposed to be giving reports of what happened in the morning session of our business, right? Getting ready. Between that time, I'm supposed to be getting ready for the evening session of the business where customers are high and then we have rush and all of those stuff, right? All of these stories just to tell you that I had to put everything in my timetable, right? So at every point in time, I knew what I was doing. And that helped me a lot because by then I knew that between this time and this time, even if I have something I'm doing at work, except it is very crucial, then it could hit into my timetable, into my break. But if not, I shut down everything I'm going, I go for my break because that is exactly the time I had to study. If there was any 5-minute break or 10-minute break or free time, or I was done with the task and then I have some free time left, I was studying, right? Because I knew I had to maximize my time, right? So that's the second thing. So I've mentioned two things now: concentrated learning, 3 things actually: concentrated learning, changing my network, and 3, creating my timetable. And 4, which is actually one thing that actually helped me, is to actually start teaching what I learned. Now, I'm not saying teaching in the sense of having a class and then start teaching some set of students. No. The concept is I needed practical. I needed to talk about what I've been reading about. I needed to put out that knowledge and let it come back to me in form of reports or in form of my experience, right? So it's more like me getting a feedback from what I have learned earlier. So I started teaching, and then this is the form I use in teaching. I make sure that every discussion I was going to be having then was going to be revolving around cloud engineering because I was preparing to write a cloud certification. So it was either going to be revolving around cloud services or revolving around AWS services. Anything outside that, I wasn't interested. I'd rather go back and start listening to tapes and informations again. So I remember one thing I did in specific that was very interesting was to actually strike up discussion with my supervisor then, manager then, who also happens to be the one that introduced me to cloud anyway. So we could just be talking about, and of course, please be careful when you do this. He's actually a very cool guy, so I could take that chance with him. So we could actually be talking about my responsibility for the day and some of my tasks for the day. And I would just go like, okay, so I actually did this troubleshooting, and while I was trying to do this troubleshoot this particular device, I just, it just came to my mind that there's something like that in cloud also. Take for instance, I just remember that uh, we were talking about maybe was it an hard drive maxing out or something? Okay, yes, we were talking about the services and how the service is not is responding to customer and how it crashes every time. And I just seized the opportunity and I'm like, oh, so imagine that we are actually running it in cloud technology now. Where everything, we just have like a CI/CD. Trust me, I didn't have any idea of what CI/CD was then. But I read it. So, like we just have an idea of what CI/CD was. We could actually run a rollback when, as it's the application actually had some problem, we can easily just deactivate that one and then roll back to a previous version that we deploy to our customers. And, with that, our customers actually have, we will not actually bother about our services going down anymore. Or some of the time that they say they actually tried this and then all of a sudden what they tried today wasn't going to work again tomorrow. We can actually have some monitoring that can actually tell us before it happened, right? So we can know before they actually know that there's a problem. We know because we're actually using a monitoring service that is hosted in the cloud. Like in AWS now, they have an example of one that is called CloudWatch that can actually help us to monitor latency, help us to monitor all the errors that we need. Or even when our server is maxing out, it will help us. The point is, I hijacked all of those discussions and infused them into cloud. Not because I want to be mean. Of course, we both enjoyed it then. But majorly because I want to ensure that I bring out everything I'm reading from my head and talk about it. There's power in words, right? When you say it and you hear what you say, it comes back to you. Okay, you said this right, you didn't say it. And more importantly for me, it helps me to solidify whatever it is I'm actually learning. It helps me to actually establish it in my mind. So I discuss it all about. So the point is, you want to find someone to discuss with like that. And that's why I said what I meant when I said teaching, right? In a way, right? In fact, there are times that he just called me in his gracious and it's like, okay, Darius, so what do you think about this, about this, about this? That's my opportunity. And then I go in and then I start talking and talking and talking. He understands, he doesn't understand, concern me. I just keep talking, just so I can establish whatever it is I've been learning. Because, of course, that's the only way I can talk about it. The other way is to actually go online and talk about it in groups. Now there are technologies, WhatsApp group, Telegram groups, Instagram, wherever, or LinkedIn, especially LinkedIn communities, right? You just go and talk about it with your network that, okay, I'm learning this. You don't even need to say you're learning it, right? Just sound like you're a professional. Let them tell you you sounded stupid or you sounded right. And that's what I actually do. In some cases, we start talking like that with my boss then. And he's like, no, that thing you just said, because of course, he is a trained elect person, electrical electronics, right? So sometimes, especially when we are talking about networking, it would just go like, no, I think what you mean is, so at that point, I knew, oh, okay, that you just flop now. You just gave a blunder right now. So with that, it really, really helped me to pick up fast. So without even knowing, I go back and I read and I'm like, oh, okay. Truthfully, what he said is correct. I actually bluffed, right? I actually made a mistake in that service, in what that service in what that service do, right? So actually, so Again, it helps you a lot. Look for someone to teach. And if it actually entails you actually calling a few of your friends that, hey, I want to, are you available for a 15-minute Zoom session? I just want to teach you about cloud engineering or about any skill that you want, right? Just taking it back to when I was in school, while this principle actually helped me, principle of teaching, right? I remember then I was like, okay, for everything I read, people come to me and they're like, in fact, and they're like, okay, Derek, please, can you explain this thing to me? And oh, why not? To them, they thought I was going to do them some favor by explaining things to them. And I explained and explained over again and explained over again. And they are very happy that, yes, I could explain things over and over again. But yes, I was very happy that each time I explained to them, it just helped me to understand things better. And when the exam comes, they all write the same thing, but I'm able to have, I understood to the extent that I could rephrase all of my English without even letting one of their own words show in mine. Yes. And they're like, but Daddy, you explained this thing to us. So how come you are scoring? We wrote the same thing. Yes, you wrote the same thing and you scored a very good marks. But the way I was going to put it down, there was no way it was going to be like yours, right? So that's the point. And of course, now we've gone to the level of actually being a technical mentor and a cloud instructor, and a cloud instructor. Right. So that's another level entirely. And of course, it's actually helped me because now I'm explaining concepts to learners. I'm talking about cloud concepts using daily activities, daily things that we see. And, most learners, even though with no tech background, come back to say, yes, these concepts, I understand it now better than I would have because it worked for me. It helped me. Yeah. So let's recap. First, concentrated learning. Second, network. Third, your timetable. Fourth, teach someone, right? So I hope, and that was how I was able to actually prepare myself in 3 months. Trust me, it was intense 3 months, intense 3 months. So you can imagine it, right? And I just shared this to encourage and motivate someone that it is actually very possible. Uh, I personally have mentored learners that actually have no idea about cloud or technology. And within 6 months, right, not just that they passed their AWS certification, solutions architect, and AWS CCP, they were so good after 6 months that some of them went on to take on solutions architect roles. Some of them went on to become cloud engineer big time. Right? In fact, some of them now have gone ahead to even take solutions architect professionals examination in AWS, right? Because I tell them about this principle, I speak about this principle with them, and it worked. So I'm encouraging you out there. First, have your targets. Have your target. I can't emphasize that enough. Then put in all of these strategies. Try it out for yourself. Try it out for yourself. You don't have to do it for 3 months. It could just be maybe yours is for 6 months. Like I said, yours could be in a year. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is that you are consistent. You are disciplined enough. And that's one thing again, to be disciplined a whole lot. It is very, very important. Very, very important. Discipline. I talk about having shut out a whole lot of social engagements. Now you know why I had to shut up a whole lot of social engagement. Again, it doesn't have to be technology. This is applicable to learn anything, any skill that you think you can learn. I've used this strategy to graduate as a distinction student in my polytechnic and as a distinction student. I used this to actually come out as the best chemistry student in my secondary school. I think that was for 2 terms, right? And again, I brought it to cloud, right, to technology. And boom, this 3 months, I wrote my certification. I didn't even need to apply for a job because the company that I was employed as a tech support then, wouldn't let me go, right? So I just switched from being a tech support. Within about barely 6 months that I started working as a tech support. Within 6 months in the same company, I became the first cloud engineer for that business. It was a fintech business. So it worked. That's the point of it. It worked. It has worked for me over and over and over again. One very key thing that you need to do is to be consistent. Be very, very, it takes discipline, it takes consistency. See, there's no two way about it. This is not a snap of the finger kind of thing, right? What I shrinked into 3 months would have taken some people 2 years, right? So, but then because of the discipline, consistency that I had to employ, right? It worked. It worked. So if you are also like me, you are tired of that level you are, or you are just bothered about how can you learn a new skill, it doesn't matter your age, right? Think of those things I've said. Go back again, watch the video over and over and over and over again. The reason I did it for you, right? You are not paying. So watch it over and over until it sinks, And don't just watch and go. Take action. Bring out that pen, write out that goal. Bring out that pen, design that timetable. I have a whole lot of timetables that I design at every point in my life based on what I want to do, right? In fact, recording this video is a function of a timetable that I have to design, right? So it works, and I believe it's going to work for you. Again, keep shining. I am always rooting for you. I am always rooting for you. That if I did it, you can do it also. See you next time.